Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul, and I am a nerd. And the word for today is discombobulated. The older I get, the more discombobulated I get. In case you were wondering how that might be used in a sentence, I am Paul Perdue, and I want to be your nerd, and I am discombobulated. But we're going to cut through all that and get to the bottom of things because you are lucky enough to be attending the November 2015 Tabs3 Virtual User Group meeting, where today we are talking about vendor labels in Accounts Payable and conflict of interest in Tabs3. But one thing I do want to mention is that version 18 is coming out. We're going to talk about it in a couple months. I believe I'm having a webinar about it, perhaps in a month. Maybe it's also in a couple months. We'll find out. But version 18 is coming out. It's coming out in early December. We hope in the first week of December. Lots of different ways to find out what's going on with version 18. We'll talk about that when things are done and when we're done covering these two topics. So as I said, we're talking today about vendor labels in Accounts Payable. Mary Jo will talk about that in a second. When she's done, I will talk about conflict of interest. So Mary Jo, take it away.
Okay. Are we there?
Are we
there yet? Are we there yet?
We're there now.
He's got all of his magic buttons. He didn't say all that.
Yeah, I didn't
time.
say I had to press my magic button.
He usually has, I'm going to do all these magic buttons and push this, and this, and oh my goodness. So I am talking about vendor labels, which is actually over in Accounts Payable. There might, especially now that we're getting into holiday season, you may want to be sending Christmas cards to your vendors, or you may want to be sending things coming up, for New Year's or whatever that is. There's times that we just want to do a mass mailing to our vendor list. So I'm going to talk about how to make labels fast and easy. No special things needed to do it. It is part of the program, which is always nice. No special coding or anything like that needed. So where that is located is in Accounts Payable. Underneath your vendor tab, there is a print vendor labels. So when you come into the vendor label list, there are all these different fields that you can use, that you can include on your labels. And I'm going to go in here. There's all kinds of different fields that are available. But, of course, we're not going to put in there half of the stuff. We're probably going to just put in the vendor name, I would say probably the address, 123, city, state, zip. That's going to be about what we need. So this is just what the fields are that are available, but just because we're not going to include them on our label doesn't mean we may not use them. So we might want to have a sort. So we might want to say we want all of the vendor labels that we have, or vendors on our vendor list that have a certain year-to-date amount that we've paid them. We're only going to send them a card if we've spent more than $500 at their particular venue. It could be anything. You could sort your list on, if they get a 1099 or not. You can sort the list on all kinds of things. So a zip code, I only want to send to this particular zip code, or print these labels in a zip code area. Or city, I only want to send cards or whatever it is to a certain city. So you have all of these things available. By highlighting on a field and double-clicking, I can then set a lower and upper limit. So if I wanted this to be all the cards are for all the vendors in Detroit, I could put Detroit to Detroit or something like that. You can limit on any field, even if it's not a field that is going to be included on the label. So that's why we see all of the fields on here, but we only are going to print off, obviously, the ones that are relevant. We have some things across the top here that we can do. One label across, two across. You can use Avery labels, laser labels. Now, remember when I do the Avery laser labels, and anyway, that's hard to say. That's a mouthful. Anyway, if I were going to use the Avery labels and I go to print, there's only certain ones that are available that they have here. So it's not like something that you can just go and choose that you have 5160 labels. There are only certain ones that are available to get into. So that can be set as well. And then you also can just export these as any kind of a file. So if you want to export these and then import them into something else like Word Merge, if I do the drop down here, I can do an MS Word Merge, Mail Merge. So if you're using Mail Merge in Word, we can just send this list right out there, and you can use whatever labels that you want. If you're using 5160 or 5163, you can just use that and use it in a Mail Merge. So it's not like it's not available. It's just if you pick the Avery laser laser, there's only a certain amount that are available to use. The other thing that you can do, were you going to say something, Paul? So under my yellow question mark, I was going to get to this after a minute, but if we go into the yellow question mark and I look at the output, my options, it's my output format. Let me go back one. My output format, if I click on the Avery laser here, this gives me the list of which labels it's going to print. So it's always going to be the 1x4, but depending on whether or not you have a laser printer or what kind of a printer you have, you can do 5261, 5161, 59, or 8161. So depending on the type of labels, but this is the only format it has with the 1x4, 20 on a page label. So that's where you can go to get that. So if you're on the yellow question mark, choose the output, and then you can choose Avery laser and find out what that is. If you want something else, just use the mail merge. You also can choose what you want. So if I have one across labels, I have some different parameters that I can say that I want to do. Print how many number of lines on a label, number of lines between labels, and then how many characters across. If you do 2 across, it's just going to be 2 across. I'll show you samples of these when we go to and actually print these. I'll preview them for you so you can see what they look like. And then you can decide whether you want to include the contact name or the vendor name or any vendors that have an asterisk in front of them. You can include those or choose not to. So I'm going to include the vendor name on mine. So I'm going to go ahead and just, I'm going to do the 1 across first, and I'm going to say OK. And I will just preview those so you can see what those will look like. Going to just go through my vendor list. I have not sorted this on anything. I've not given it any parameters, so it's just going to come through. I'm guessing this is in numeric order, so 1, 2, 3, whatever your vendors are, that's how this is coming in. And it's just doing 1 across. If I do the 2 across and I preview that, that's going to look like this. So again, these are not Avery labels like like a 5160 or 63. This is just 2 across. You'd have to play with your margins and things like that if you wanted to manipulate it to fit an Avery label, which you could, but you'd have to play with that a little bit. I think, in my opinion, it would probably be easier if I'm using Avery labels or some kind of labels I want to print direct. I would just do it as a mail merge and just import them in and have it done, but that's just me. And if I do the laser, Avery laser, and previewed, it's going to be pretty close to just the 2 across. This looks the same. So that's what you have. You can save a parameter. So if I were doing this by city and I wanted to do Detroit and Toledo and Grand Rapids or whatever it is that I want to do, I can set up parameters and then save that particular parameter to load later. So I'm going to do all of my vendors that have a zip code of this, especially if you're doing mass mailings and you want that postal discount or bulk mailing discount. You can do that by zip code or area, and then you can load that parameter and just send out your cards or your whatever it is that you want to do, your invitations or whatever it is. So that's all available here as well. You can always do a test page in case you want to just kind of hold one up and line it up with your labels. And other than that, that is how you can print labels for a vendor directly from Accounts Payable without any other hoops to jump through. So it's pretty simple. I didn't really run one, but if I do an export as a mail merge file, I'll just say OK and I'll preview. It's going to look like a bunch of gobbledygook. This is a text file that's just got a lot of commas and things that are sorting in here, but this is what Word Merge would read. You would save this file like to your desktop or something. You'd go open Word, you would start a mail merge, you would pick your labels, which would be 5160 or whatever it is that you want, and then this would just load those in there. So, and again, you can sort this alphabetically. You could sort this by zip. Right now, I've just got it in straight vendor order. It's by numeric number of the vendor. We're in test data, so we don't have a lot of vendors in here. But that's what that's doing.
So if you had Avery labels other than the one that they support,
correct.
It's 2x10.
Correct.
You could then just set it up in Word and pull these
correct.
in. Okay.
Yep.
Or
yep.
you could even print Christmas card envelopes directly from Word using that exported data.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the
I like having that control over what labels I want to print. I want my list. I'm basically interested in my list, but if you wanted to just quick print some labels out of here, you could do that. But if you don't, you want a whole mailing list that I'm going to be able to work with, and mail merge is always good for that. And I could go in and adjust. Maybe there's a list of them I have here, but there's a few I don't want to send to. I have that control in Word once I get this list over there to do whatever I want with it. So that's probably the way I would go. But
gotcha. Good.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to talk about conflict of interest searching in tabs. Now, if you've heard us talk about conflict of interest searching before, 9 times out of 10, you're hearing us talk about doing a conflict search in PracticeMaster. And if that's what you're interested in, well, that's what we're going to talk about in the virtual user group meeting at 2 o'clock, the PracticeMaster virtual user group meeting. We will talk about conflict of interest searching in PracticeMaster. It usually is more complete because usually you have more data in PracticeMaster. In the billing system, you may have people that are tied to a case that really never show up in tabs. The opposing attorney's name is not going to show up in tabs unless you happen to mention that person in a fee entry. So it usually is a better bet to do conflict of interest searching in PracticeMaster. However, we have a lot of clients that have tabs and they don't have PracticeMaster. So today we're going to talk about how to do a conflict of interest search in tabs. And you find that out in the reports menu, and then under that, the conflict of interest search. And when you click on that, you get to this screen where you can do up to 8 searches at a time. And this is one thing that's kind of cool about the tabs conflict of interest search that I wish they would put into the PracticeMaster conflict of interest search. I'm sure there's reasons it's not done this way. But if I wanted to search for Purdue and Boyd and Cottrell all at once, I could do it here in tabs simply by saying I want to search for this name and that name. Now, when you're doing this, you do have the option to search for, just clients and fees, for instance, clients and transactions. You get to choose whether or not you're including archive. So if you have printed many, many bills, you've been using tabs for years and years, if you don't include archive, you're only looking at the WIP transactions, and that's probably not a good thing to be doing. In my mind, if you're looking for conflicts, you should look everywhere. So you would want all 5 of these boxes checked so that you're looking not only at clients and contacts, but also at notes and archive and WIP transactions. That means if that person's name appears in a fee entry that hasn't been billed yet, it's going to show up here. If it's going to appear in a fee entry that has been billed already and updated, it's going to appear here. Now, if you use phonetic search and you're searching for something like Purdue with a P-U-R-D-U-E spelling, if you're using phonetic search, it will also find Purdue spelled P-E-R-D-U-E because phonetically those 2 things are identical. So I tell people a lot of times to start with a non-phonetic search, and then if they don't find anything, just for safety, they may want to run the same search again using phonetic search to make sure that they're not missing something, that perhaps they're spelling it wrong now, perhaps they spelled it wrong in the previously. So you want to make sure that you've got this probably unchecked to begin with and then bring it into play later. Now, when you run this, it goes out and searches all these files, and since I had them all checked, it searches all of them. It tells me where it found conflicts and where it didn't. So it found the word probably Purdue in the 3 transactions. I'm not sure what it found in the 3 contacts, probably all 3 of them. And if we do a report, it's going to show me that it found Paul Purdue here, Paul Purdue here, Paul Purdue here. Now, you'll notice that it tells you search text Purdue and shows you what it found. And then if we go down a page, it shows me search text Boyd, and it shows me what it found. And if we go down a page again, search text Cottrell, and it shows me what we found. That's because I told it that I wanted to start each text item on a new page. If I had not checked that, then they'd all be together. Okay? Now, another thing is that it lets you select a report date, and let's do this again. You'll notice now that the report date, the text items on a new page and the report are grayed out. That's because I have selected new criteria and I haven't run the report. Now we find a lot more hits, probably because of these names being spelled differently for other names that really aren't conflicts. And that's why I tell you, start without phonetic search turned on first to see if you can find your hit right away. It'll give you less to search through, and if you find a conflict, then you're done. After that, if you don't find a conflict and you turn on phonetic searching, you'll have more to search through, but then you'll get a much broader representation of whether or not the system thinks there may or may not be a conflict there. So now when we run the report, obviously it's going to have more data, and what we find is that party is phonetically close to Purdue. I can't say that I quite agree with that, and so basically the only extra hits it found were those words party in that particular transaction. Okay? So again, another good reason why you start with phonetic searching turned off. Okay? And that, in a nutshell, is searching for conflicts within tabs. It's not nearly as comprehensive as doing it in PracticeMaster, but if all you have is tabs, it certainly is a good start. If you keep your contacts and your clients in tabs, which of course you do, if you perhaps add extra contacts as they become available, like people who are opposing counsel on certain matters, people who are expert witnesses, fact witnesses, plaintiffs, defendants, if you put those people in the contacts, that will help. Another thing that I see people doing if they're using tabs only for conflict of interest searching, oops, I went too far, is to actually list their adverse parties or any parties of record in the billing software under the client. So if we go back into tabs, because I went too far, and we pull up a matter, there are places in here where we can put, well, there's notes, so sometimes people will list them there. There's also, I think, billing notes. There we go, billing notes and instructions. Sometimes people will list them there. So if we also have custom fields, but that's where you find miscellaneous 1, 2, and 3. But the problem with that is those aren't free-form fields. Those aren't memo fields. So if we get either to the billing notes and instructions on billing preferences, or we get to the regular notes that are right here, we can list all the adverse parties, and we can even put what they are. Plaintiffs, and so now what you're going to do, if you don't have the luxury of a PracticeMaster where you'd already be storing these things, if you want to use tabs for a conflict of interest search and you want it to be complete, for each matter, if you simply list the parties involved, and you don't even have to identify them like that, if you just list them and put next to them plaintiff, OA, whatever you want. However you do it, as long as you get these names in here, they're going to show up on a conflict search. So it's kind of like knowing that you're going to use tabs for conflict of interest searching and therefore pre-populating the matters with the important parties so that you'll find them later in a conflict search. Okay, that's that. That's how to use tabs. Not all that exciting, not all that difficult either. If you list the right names with the matter and then use the search, it certainly is better than when my father became an attorney in the 40s, and Alan Owen, the senior partner, would walk to his door and yell down the hall, "Does anybody know who Paul Purdue is?" And if nobody said anything, that meant there was no conflict.
At the law firm I came from, Paul, they had little sheets that they would fill out and take around to each attorney that would have to initial off on that. And I still see that a lot at law firms, too. So this really does make it much better. And you can print that report, too, to verify. You don't have to have everybody go out and, say, okay, did I do work for this guy? Can I remember if I did work for that guy? So it's just much better.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk real quick about what we're doing next month. Next month we were talking about transferring and changing multiples. In other words, you decide all of a sudden you want to change something about how your clients are set up. And you've already got 2,000 matters in the system. Maybe 200 of them are currently active. There's a way to change all of those without having to go into each matter. Or maybe you put in a couple dozen time entries for a certain matter, but you use the wrong timekeeper number or the wrong rate. There are ways to change these things en masse. And so Mary Jo and I are going to kind of split the topic up, and we're going to cover it en masse, I guess, no pun intended, and we're going to talk about how to change things across the board rather than going into each individual matter or each individual advance or fee entry and make that change. Not everything can be changed, but we're going to show you what can and what can't and give you some techniques to make that task a little easier when you have to do that. I want to mention we have in the past done year-end virtual user group meetings for Tabs because there's a lot to be done in Tabs at the year-end. But that's not necessarily true anymore. And when we went from version 16 to version 17, we stopped losing journal entries and journal data in the general ledger because now it stores all of it. So that has gone away. For those of you that are thinking about getting to version 18 allows date-based reports. There's no more closing the month in Tabs either. And so that is a good reason to get up to version 18 right now when it's coming out instead of waiting till after the first of the year, because there really isn't that much left anymore to do for year-end that hasn't been taken care of by updates that have been made to the software. The need to back up your general ledger and to print certain reports before the end of the year, before you update the year or close the year, that's gone away, especially if you get all the way up to version 18. So consider that. And so while we're talking about that, let's look at a couple things. If you go to version 18, all you have to do is let us know that you want it, and we will request it for you. Now, if you go to tabs3.com/pre-release, and you probably don't even need to get on the pre-release anymore, but the reason I'm sending you here is because one of the things they'll do is they'll talk to you about version 18 and what some of the important changes are. Now, as you scroll down, you can fill out this information and get a pre-release, but version 18 is due out next week, we think. Don't quote me on that, but we think it's going to be released to people that want it right away as soon as next week. So if you want version 18 and you don't need to know what's in it, you've already decided you want it, just send me an email, paul.purdue, like the school, not the chicken, Purdue, @attorneycomputersystems.com. Now, another thing to know is that if you go to our website, usually, as you know, I take you here at the end and show you what you can do, but I want to, as far as looking at videos, but I want to show you something important right away. If you go to the Tabs 3 virtual user group meetings and just scroll down, what year was that? In fact, you can just type year end up here. There you go. Learn everything you need to know for year-end in Tabs 3 and General Ledger. When you do this, go to the one that's most current. This is probably the most current right here, the 2012. So it's the November 2012 virtual user group meeting. That was everything about what to do. And why am I telling you this? We still have people out there that are running versions 14 and versions 15 and version 16. If you need to know exactly what to do at the end of the year, if you're in a version before version 17, or if you're not planning to get to version 18 and you want to know certain things you should do, watch this virtual user group meeting. Now, what I kind of got to there is that we have all this content out there. If you come here and go to videos and just click on videos without even looking at the drop-down, you will see descriptions of all the videos we have, including the Tabs, PracticeMaster, and World Docs virtual user group meetings, My Coffee Pot webinars, Mary Jo's eBite video series, and our Paul and Mary Jo show. These are all video titles that have lots and lots of videos that you can watch. And if you get to one of them and say, hey, I want to look at more Tabs3 virtual user group meeting, just click through. It will always show you what the next meeting is. This will be changed momentarily. And as you scroll down even further, we get to recorded versions of the more recent, the ones that we've been doing ever since we started recording. I said recent, actually, we've been doing for years and years and years. And as you saw, we can search. If we search for year end, we will get a listing of all the videos that contain information on year end. So be sure to take advantage of this, especially now if you're on version 16 or 15 and need information about what to do for year end. And take advantage of this video content. That's it for today. Everybody have a good rest of the month, and we will see you just a few days before Christmas. Have a good month. Bye-bye.